This is a monumental day for Creative Assembly, and hopefully also for all current and future Total War players. CA just released a community post on the official Total War blog titled A Message from Total War's Leadership Team. And while we have seen similar posts in the past and been disappointed by them, I promise you, what you're about to see is a wildly different tune. Today's blog is written by Roger Collum, Vice President at Creative Assembly in what I believe, although I might be mistaken, is his first post on the blog. But he's here writing on behalf of the entire Total War leadership team, which, in many other circumstances, I wouldn't have taken as seriously, but a little tidbit like this, plus the signing of all their names on the bottom of this blog, is actually meaningful. Now, we should take everything with a grain of salt, but I choose to believe that it really means that CA has taken a hard look at themselves, actually involved every person in management and leadership roles, and become aware of the grave state of the series and the community. It's quickly stated that the past few months have been tough, and that while CA is trying to get back to neutral or even positive relations with the community, to use a few terms you Total War addicts might understand, Roger recognizes that this will take time and effort. This, in my opinion, is Creative Assembly's first, truly genuine sounding post. The initial big proof of this is the plain, good old "we are sorry," with no caveats or excuses added on, and I think that's great. But what might be even better is the promise of a more transparent and consistent relationship with the community, and that even though the slower approach might have worked in the past, as they say, that they finally realized that, quote, the need to react faster to help address the challenges that are ahead of us. Now, this is awesome stuff. I don't know if I could have written a more ideal set of cultural changes for CA than this, but I have to wonder why the company couldn't come to this realization sooner. It's baffling how long it took and how much shit needed to hit the fan before leadership got the message. But either way, that's all to say that I'm really happy with these promises, even though we still need to see and feel the changes ourselves before we can truly praise CA for having changed. If this wasn't enough though, it's only the beginning of why this might be the best blog post ever made in Total War history. Roger goes on to talk about Warhammer 3 and the controversy surrounding the Shadows of Change DLC. He admits they failed to meet expectations of what that DLC should have been, and then promises that they will enhance their offer for everyone who bought it and indeed for future purchases of it. Shadows of Change will receive a major update for free with a targeted release of February 2024, although that might change. And while it would be ideal to have had a proper DLC from the get-go, the meaningful and believable will to change and improve is valuable, not just because of Shadows of Change, but what it might mean for Total War content going forward. You see, while more information will come on the Shadows of Change free update in the new year, it also has repercussions for future DLC like Thrones of Decay. Now, I don't think there were any hope left for a 2023 release date anymore for that one, and it's indeed confirmed here that release has been moved to April 2024. At least tentatively. But Thrones of Decay will be getting more content and be a larger DLC than apparently was initially planned. Not just to avoid repeating past mistakes, but as Roger describes it, to give you the amount of content that you rightly expect from us at these price points. In other words, we might hopefully see a meaningful increase in DLC offerings that actually match the relatively newly raised price of Total War DLC, which have been quite high compared to what's actually been on offer. More information on Thrones of Decay will come after the free update to Shadows of Change, and will apparently have full transparency around what the content will offer before pre-orders are up, which is great and not always the case, honestly. And after Thrones of Decay's release is when we'll find out what's next in terms of content for Warhammer 3, which he promises is far from finished. Now that's it for Warhammer in this blog post, and I have to say that despite not playing Warhammer 3 all that much myself, that this is an unequivocal W for CA, and by extension for the Total War players, since this will hopefully greatly benefit us in terms of not just more content, but more transparency and regular contact and communication with and from Creative Assembly. But the upcoming information might just be the true, real game changer, and it's all about Total War Pharaoh. Here, big decisions have been made, changes I frankly never would have imagined. First of all, CA will partially refund buyers of Total War Pharaoh to their Steam wallets, because they're at the same time lowering the price of Pharaoh to $40 down from $60, and the same relative decrease goes for other currencies like euros and pounds as well. At the same time, CA is removing the higher priced editions of the game, which have yet to receive any new content really, meaning the Deluxe and Dynasty editions, which means there's only one version of the game available to buy. If it has to be said, I'll say it. This is a massive move on CA's part, not just because it puts Pharaoh on a price footing that makes it a much easier sell, essentially now being the cost of a smaller game that befits this title's essentially standalone DLC-like offering, but the fact that they're also partially refunding current players of Pharaoh? Now that's just beautiful. It's a move they technically didn't have to do, but which is an extremely good faith move and should be taken as a sign of true commitment. Because this is probably the first time when words are not the only proof of change, but that we have been given an actual, tangible monetary move that makes a difference on both CA's and players' wallets. In fact, there will be only one version of Pharaoh for purchase now. In addition, and in terms of the future of Pharaoh, the first previously paid upcoming DLC will now be a free update for all players releasing in early 2024, and we'll get more information as release approaches. What perhaps intrigues me even more than this is the tidbit we're getting about Pharaoh's own future, which frankly CA has been completely silent about until now. Despite the refund, lowering of prices, and the now new free DLC early next year, CA is at least for now committed to keep developing and improving Pharaoh, and will release more ambitious updates in the future. Apparently, they have big plans for the game, but admits to needing more time with Pharaoh before showcasing stuff to us. And then comes a particularly interesting piece of information. Roger states, "One plan that we've always had since the early stages of development of Pharaoh is to expand the size of our campaign map as a free update, and to introduce even more factions and cultures to the game." This is absolutely massive news for current and future Pharaoh players, and is essentially what everyone's been wanting from Pharaoh all along, but which CA sadly hasn't really talked about or confirmed until now. This is certainly an interesting way of revealing this information, and I think they could have considered doing so with an impromptu trailer of whatever kind, honestly, for the hype, but that's marketing speak. And if there's one thing I think this post is all about, it's less marketing and more genuine conversation. And the fact that Roger just mentioned this so casually, especially in comparison to how quiet and secretive Creative Assembly has been in the past with even minor updates, is at least some proof of wanting and trying to change and be better here. While the overall future of Pharaoh is uncertain, and frankly was always quite uncertain since we never truly knew what kind of content was coming, CA will have more to say about Pharaoh's free and paid updates at several points in the new year. And perhaps for the first time, I can't wait to hear what they are, and whether they'll actually manage to make a major and tangible difference. In other words, Pharaoh might just become the Bronze Age Total War game it was always meant to be. And even though it remains to be seen, the fact that these changes and improvements are on the table does at least feel like some kind of vindication. And I want to make a shout out here to the Magi of Fayum, a YouTuber who's passionate about Egypt and the Bronze Age, who's probably jumping for joy right now. So make sure to check him out if you want to see more on Pharaoh and his thoughts. That was it for Pharaoh for this time, and I can wholeheartedly admit I did not expect this, and that in one post, more was said about Pharaoh than arguably has ever been stated since the game's release. Certainly more was said of its future than ever before. The post ends with more promises of cultural and public-facing improvements at the company, including showcasing more of what's going on at the studio, including and introducing more voices from the team who'll speak directly about what they're working on and listen to more feedback. I particularly love one of the paragraphs here because I think it encapsulates the entire blog post. "We again apologize for the missteps we've made. The mistakes of Total War are a shared responsibility by all the leaders of the franchise, and while it may not seem like it at times, we are listening. We really hope that the extra love we're pouring into Warhammer 3 DLC, our several recent updates, and the changes for Pharaoh show our heartfelt commitment to these games and to you." If I'm honest, I never expected to see this post from CA, at least not so late in the year. But this is probably the best Christmas gift fans of this series could get, at least in terms of promises and immediate upcoming changes, like the pricing of and partial refunds from Total War Pharaoh. All in all, this is exactly how CA should have communicated all along, and I don't really have any criticism of this post at all. CA laid themselves flat, to use a Norwegian expression, they're apologizing without reservations, and the entire post sounds nothing like the usual corpo speak we've gotten before. I think Warhammer fans, and frankly all Total War fans, should and will appreciate the coming updates and changes to how Warhammer DLC will be produced from now on, since it will likely benefit how DLCs are made period moving forward. In terms of future titles, this post was not about that, and I think that's okay frankly. But it is important that the terms or promises outlined in this post makes it into the future of Total War as well. And since the entire leadership team is clearly aware of the current situation, I really hope this also translates into more efforts being put into revamping and finally meaningfully updating the Total War game engine, not just for the players, but also for the developers at CA who are seemingly struggling with making strides forward to make the series markedly better. In the end, this blog post came at the same time as lightning from clear skies and has been a long time coming. I sincerely hope not just for the player's sake, but for Creative Assembly's future, that the changes promised will be followed through on. And to whoever or whomever finally listened at CA, I say well done. And well, now make it so. Total War players love this franchise and would like nothing more than to feel appreciated and respected again, and only CA has the power to make that happen. And I think this post is as big of a promise as any that they will. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!